Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Mike Gomes, and I started this channel to help aspiring and scaling entrepreneurs like yourself grow profitable online businesses. Now, if you're currently a Kajabi addict and user like myself, then you know how powerful and how amazing Kajabi can actually be when running your online business. It does everything that you need, and that is exactly why I fell in love with it. Especially if you're a course creator, a coach, or a digital product creator, you know how Kajabi can transform and change your business overnight. And if you're not a current Kajabi user and you'd love to try it out for free to kind of get your feet wet, to kind of test it, then I'd like to help you out. I've developed a free ebook and a course that go hand in hand to not only help you get started with Kajabi in the first 30 days, but to start making your first $1,000 online in 30 days. So I'd love to offer you a free 30-day trial of Kajabi to let you play around with it, launch your website, create your first paid product, or even launch your podcast. I'm going to give you my free mini course, Kajabi Kickstart, along with the companion ebook with all of the worksheets, plus a free 45-minute phone call with me to make sure that you get off on the right foot. And of course, if you need some ongoing coaching, I also offer paid packages as well. So go to michaelgomes.com/Kajabi and sign up for your free 30-day trial and all these amazing bonuses and get started making money online with Kajabi within your first 30 days. So now let's jump over to Kajabi and let me show you some of these ninja tactics to manipulate your text and image blocks and element blocks within sections in Kajabi. I'm going to show you how powerful this can be when designing your website. So here we are on Kajabi, and I want to start with showing you my design page because I want to give you a tip. If there's ever something that you want to do with your website that you've either seen somewhere else or that you're not sure how to code it or you're not sure how to set it up, one of the things that I like to do is go first under Browse Templates, and I like to go through Kajabi's pre-built templates. And if there's a section or something that I really like, then what I'll do is go into their customization options and see kind of how they have it set up, and then just do the same thing on my website. So, as you're clicking around, let's click on tailor because this is the one I'm going to show you as an example. So, you can kind of scroll here and see what the website looks like. And I'm going to show you two things. One, I'm going to show you this section because I like this section with the text and the image right here. But I also like this form that kind of overlaps the images. And we're going to talk about how to do both of these today to get a little bit more advanced in our customization. So what I did was I clicked here and I added it to my saved templates. So if we go back, okay, so here we are. So I have it in my saved templates down here. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to click here where it says customize. And we're going to jump in here because we're going to use this as our example so that I don't really mess with my website. But I'm going to show you a few of the tricks that I learned just from studying this theme and how they have it set up. If you want to check out my previous video, I'm going to put it in the cards up here below. It's really a beginner explanation of sections and blocks and padding and stuff. We're going to kind of vaguely touch on that today, but we're going to go more into advanced. So I'm going to skip over some of that stuff a little bit. Check out that video. I'll link it in the description below and also in the cards. So this is the section we're going to be working on today. There's just a couple things that I want to point out that I pointed out in that other video really quick. This is a section, okay? And as you can see over here down the left-hand side, these are all the sections that have been added into this theme. You can see you got your hero and your newsletter opt-in and your podcast. The podcast section is the one that we're actually looking at right now because as you can see here by this button, it says listen to the podcast. So it's the podcast section. And within this section, as you can see, there are two blocks, and you can tell when you mouse, you can tell that they're blocks, obviously, because they say block right here. They've got this kind of box around the elements that are in here. So you can see that there's two elements within this section. If we want to see these elements displayed on the left-hand side, all we got to do is click on the canvas here or come over here to where the section is and click on the word podcast. And now we're inside of the controls for the podcast section, okay? And you can see the two elements right here. We have this text block and we have this image block represented over here on the canvas, right? If you don't see these guidelines and you want to use these guidelines, which I recommend at least for following this tutorial, I usually don't edit with the block guidelines on, but for this tutorial, I do recommend it because I'm going to show you something that it's easier to see with the blocks turned on. Okay, so we're going to leave them turned on for now. And obviously there's a lot of ways that you can set up your sections and you can set up your text and you can set up your blocks and images, but I'm going to just cover a few of the ones that I really wanted to cover today because they're the most asked about, and I'm going to show you how to accomplish these effects. So let's start with this text block, okay? Let's say, as you can see, the text is transparent. There is no background except for the section background. And the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna highlight over the text and we're gonna click on edit. And this is gonna bring up over here on the left, you can see this is our text settings right on down the left-hand side. And let's say we want to add a background, okay? So we're gonna come down here to the settings, click on background, and we're gonna choose a block background color, right? Because we just want to add the color to the block, to this block. And I'm going to choose something bright just so it's exaggerated and we can see what it's doing here. And now as you can see, I've just chosen this yellow. Now, within this block, this actually looks pretty good, but if you try to put a color background behind the text of like the default text block that you add, the text will actually be touching up against the sides of the yellow. And you can see here that there's actually plenty of spacing actually here from top, from the bottom, and the sides. That's your padding. The padding is on the inside, the margins are on the outside. Remember that, because when we talk about customizing and moving around these blocks within the sections, we're going to be referring to the margins, not the padding. The padding is what takes place inside each block, okay? So let me show you let's see how theirs is set up. So we have this text block, we're clicked in on it. We're going to come down here to desktop layout, and we're going to scroll down. So you can see how they have it set up. It actually looks pretty good here, but let's say we want to give a little bit more padding or a little bit more space or buffer on the right-hand side of the text, okay? So we're going to come over here to the inside spacing. Remember, inside's padding, outside is margins. And we're going to click here. Let's just add 50. And you can watch on the right-hand side, you can watch the text spacing change. Did you see that? It changed on the right-hand side. And you could do the same for all of them. Let's say we want to give more spacing at the bottom. We're going to put in a 50, and of course you can mess with this. If you put in 100, it's going to shrink the text and actually, as you saw, it scaled the box, okay? So this is where you change the padding options. I'm going to go ahead and just set this back because I think this one actually looks pretty good. And one thing that I forgot to mention is that in each section is divided up into a 12-column grid. Okay, so these blue box right here represent how many columns each block is taking up within that 12-column grid within that section. So this block, this text block, is currently taking up 5 columns. And if we click over here on the photo and we scroll up, we see that the photo is taking up 5 columns. That leaves 2 columns unaccounted for, and that basically is accounted for with the spacing, okay? So we have a little bit of room to play with. And when you, like if we click on, let's go back to the text block. When you click on these squares, if you click on, let's move it up to 6, you'll notice that the square gets bigger. And if you keep clicking on this block, it's going to keep getting bigger to fill in those columns, those 12 columns. But as you can see right now, we're at 7 columns within this block and now 5 columns within the image block. So that's 12. So we can't go any further. If we go to 8, watch what's going to happen. I click on 8, the image pops down below the text block because now we're at 13 columns and there's only 12. Does that make sense? So one of the biggest designs that I see on websites nowadays, it's actually really popular, is kind of the section that you see here that we're still going to be dealing with this podcast section, but where the text will overlap the image, right? A little bit. It makes it a little bit more three-dimensional, looks the site look a little bit more custom. For example, I pulled up a couple examples here. Here's one example of the text overlapping an image on the left, right? This is not a Kajabi site, but this is kind of the example of what we're going for. If we look at Christy Wright's website, you can see that she's done that here. She actually has a Kajabi website, so hers is Kajabi, and you can see that she's overlapped the image over the text box, right? Now on one of her other pages, she has the exact same section, I'll show you, but she swapped it. Now she has the white text box over her image. And this is what I'm going to show you how to accomplish, because in Kajabi, I don't know if it's just the system itself, or I'm assuming it's just the way it's built, but there's a default setting so that whenever you try to overlap blocks, it always defaults with the image over the text. So if we want to accomplish something like this, where the text box is actually overlapping the image, we have to do kind of a ninja secret trick that I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so let's go back here to our podcast example. I'm going to click on this section so we bring us back into the podcast section that has our text and image blocks. And I'm going to show you how to get that exact same look kind of in a secretive back-end way, okay? Let me show you first what this does. If I want to layer this text over this image, what we have to do is remove the spacing between the text and the image, okay? So we want to remove the margins So what we're going to do is I'm going to click on the text block first. And I'm going to show you how this works the same way both ways. Click on the text block, highlight it, come over here to the left-hand side, click on desktop layout. And in order to remove again, remember margins is outside spacing. So we want to remove the spacing on the right-hand side of the text to bring the two blocks together. So we're going to come down here to outside spacing on the right-hand side of the text. And we're going to do like a negative. Let's try like negative 400. Now you see how it changed. You can see that these blocks are now overlapping each other, but the image is on top, and we don't want that, okay? We want it the other way around, okay? So now let me try clicking on the image. Same thing. We come down here to the desktop layout, and we go to the outside spacing, but this time we want to remove the margins on the left side. So we're going to do a negative 400 on the left side. Now look what happened on our canvas here. You can see that the exact same thing happened. The image overlapped the text, and that's not what we want. So normally this is how you could bring elements closer together. Like if you just wanted them slightly touching a little bit of space apart, you could just mess with these settings, and that would kind of get them closer together, farther apart. So mess with those margin settings to kind of get the look and feel that you're looking for. But let's reset this, and I'll show you this secret trick. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to want to duplicate this section. So let's go back to where all of our sections are. I'm going to hit the back arrow a couple of times, and we want to go back. Here's all our sections again. Remember, we're doing the podcast one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate this, and it's going to place it at the very bottom of the page. That's just Kajabi's default. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to drag this podcast up underneath the other podcast. Boom. There we go. So now we have section 1 and section 2. They're identical. So the goal with this ninja trick here, the secret trick, is to replace each block with a dummy block or custom code. And you don't have to know the code. It's just the custom code block. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So first, we know by clicking on these two elements, remember, that the spacing of each of these elements was 5 columns. So you just have to make sure that whichever one you're replacing with custom code matches the same amount of columns in order for this to work. And I'll show you why. So let's start with the first section. Let's go back. So here's our first podcast section. We're going to click on the canvas here to make sure we highlight the right one. And then we're going to go to add content. And right here on the right-hand side, you see custom code. So we're going to click custom code. And again, we're going to come up here to the top and see how it's labeled 6 columns. We're going to make it 5 columns. And you can see over here on the canvas how it added it below these 2 blocks. And the reason why I did that is because now we're at 15 columns within a 12 column section, and that's a no-no, right? So it places it below the 2 images. But what we're going to do is we're going to replace one of these with that section. So let's go back to our section. As you can see here, we have the text, image, and custom code. Let's replace the text first. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the dots here, and I'm going to hide the text, and then I'm going to drag the custom code up. So now we've put back a 5 column block and another 5 column block, which is the image. So now we're back to 10 blocks within a 12 block section. Does that make sense? Okay. Don't want to lose you here. So now we're going to come down here to the duplicated section, and now we want to replace the opposite. Now we want to replace the image, and I'll show you why here in a second, with a custom code block. So I'm going to click on the canvas. So we highlight, highlight this section to make sure we're manipulating the right section. We're going to go up here, add content again, custom code. I'm going to change it to 5 columns. Okay, as you can see here, put it over here, same as before. And then I'm going to hide the image this time. I'm actually going to hide the image, and the custom code's already in place. So as you can see, what we're going to do now is we're going to manipulate one of the blocks to overlap from one section onto the other section. You cannot overlap sections. It doesn't work. When you change margins, the only items or elements you can move around are the element blocks, okay? So in order to get this text way up here, we're gonna have to mess with some coding. What we wanna do is we wanna bring this text block, so let's click on it, and we're gonna go down here to desktop layout and go to outside spacing, and we're gonna manipulate the outside. So we're gonna do like -1,000, okay? Boom. And again, I had messed with this earlier, so I kind of knew that was the number, kind of close to the number we needed. As you can see here, it's not entirely in the middle. We could actually change that to like, -1,050, brought it up a little bit more. But now that the text is in place, now you're going to mess with the right side, just like we would have before. Okay. So let's do -400 on the right side, outside spacing. And that's not enough. So let's go to -550 maybe. See how it's starting to overlap? You just kind of have to mess with the numbers at this point. Let's do -600, maybe let's do 700. You kind of have to mess with the numbers at this point. Okay, So here we go. Let's save this so we can kind of get an idea of what this looks like. And then we're going to come over here to the preview page and I'm going to refresh it. And as you can see, now we're starting to accomplish the effect that we were looking for with the text overlapping the image. Now, again, you can also go a step further if we go back to the idea of the blocks, right? If you click on this text block, maybe you want to change the background. You know, maybe you want to do, I don't know, a blue background color on here. There we go. So if we save and then we go over to our preview page, and there we go. So it doesn't really look like it's overlapping because the image kind of blends into the background here, but you see what I mean? Now you've got a colored box and text overlapping the image. That's kind of your secret ninja way to get around the fact that it doesn't work. Now we're looking at the guidelines here. Let's actually turn those guidelines off real quick so we get a better idea. So come into settings, you're going to go to your design tools and we're going to uncheck show guides. I'm going to go back and I'm actually going to remove this blue from our text block. So let's go back to background and let's just remove the color. All right, so now we're back to where we were and I'm going to hit save. In order to clean up some of this space down here, you can't just hide this section or else the actual text up here will disappear as well. See over here on the left-hand side where it says hide block. If I click this, watch, the text disappears as well because it's part of that section, even though we've manipulated the location of it. Okay, so what we want to do is just click down here on this section, not this section, even though this text looks like it's part of this upper section, it's not. It's just overlaid over that section. We want to click on this section, section number 2, and then we want to click on desktop layout and we want to change the padding to 0. Okay, that's going to move the text up a little bit as well, but that actually helps us out because then we can click back on the text and then we can actually go back to the desktop layout and we can even shrink this down. Let's go back down to like -900. Let's see how that is. There you go. So we kind of lined it up. So that's how you can kind of fudge and get around the fact that Kajabi doesn't allow you to overlay the text over the image natively. The image always overlays over the text. So that's a great workaround for that. So the next example that I want to give you is I was working on a funnel for a chiropractor. I wanted to get this form. You can see this form here. I wanted to get this form to overlap the blue section down here a little bit, right? But because this form, if we click on this section, this is my, here, let's go back so I can show you. Here's my hero with form, right? Because the form is built in. And because of that, I can't overlap it, and I'll show you why. If we click on this form box, okay, and we want to use the same tactics, we come down here to desktop layout, and let's say we want to change the outside spacing. Well, if we want to change, we want the white box to move downward over the blue, we obviously would think that we'd put like a negative, right, in here at the bottom. So let's do like -400. Do you see what happened? Let me save it because sometimes you have to save it and it refreshes to see where it is. Okay, see, so it didn't actually do anything. It just made this header section, this hero section, bigger. Let's try giving a bigger number. Let's try like -700. It looks like it's overlapping, but then in Safari, I have to click save and then it refreshes it. See how now it's gone down far enough that it's overlapping, but it's the blue overlapping the form. So I had to figure out a workaround for this because I wanted the form kind of floating between the top hero header or the top hero section and this kind of blue title section. So let me show you how I accomplished that. And I kind of already added this section, so I'm just going to go ahead and unhide it. You can see here under hero with form. Okay, here's our hero with form section. I added another section. I just went down here to add section, chose opt-in form. And now I'm going to unhide this. I'm going to click show so I can show you. So this is now an opt-in form that was centered and I just moved it off to the right-hand side. And how I did that, if you click on this section, you come here to desktop layout. And if you come down here to horizontal alignment, I just chose right. So if I chose, left, it would jump it over to the left. If I chose center, so the default comes in the center and I just moved it off to the right by choosing right. Okay, that's where I wanted to start because I wanted to get it lined up under my other form. So I'm going to leave the upper form there just kind of as a guide to kind of see where we're going here. And what I want to do real quick is you can see that there's a lot of padding here on the top of this form and on the bottom, and I'm just going to change that really quick. So again, we click on desktop layout after we click on the form. It's set at 100. I'm going to set it probably at 30. Okay, there we go. So now we've tightened that form up a little bit. Sections cannot overlap, so we want to overlap this form. So again, we're going to start with the outside margins, and I'm going to do like a negative, like 490. Boom. Okay. So what we did in essence was we shrunk that section by moving, because now the section is pretty much underlapping, but it's underlapping the top section, but the block in that section is now overlapping the two. And if we didn't want to go that far, let's say we wanted to, I don't know, let's do like negative 350. There we go. Now it's definitely between the two sections, right? Now what I'm going to do is click on this upper form in this section, and I'm going to hide this. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to actually click here, and I'm going to hide it. Okay. So there you go. But now you see what happens. It kind of shrunk the top section, right? So I'm going to click on this section, desktop layout, and now we're going to give it a lot more desktop padding than this. Let's try 300. And if we do 300 on the bottom, that might actually be too much. So let's do 250. Nope. Let's do 250 on top, 250 on bottom. Oh, 2,500. That's a lot. Okay, let's do 250. So if we scroll back up, there you go. That's not looking too bad. Okay. My goal is to get the text lined up with the box. And so if I wanted to move the text, I would just click on the text, come down here again to desktop layout, and I would probably change the outside spacing. So let's say we want to add an extra 100 onto the text. Watch the text drop down. Now the text dropped down, but the section dropped down also. Okay. Because that's going to expand your section. So all you got to do here is click on your form again and just mess with another number. Let's say we want to do like negative 450. So we just kind of bring it up. So you just kind of customize the taste, right? But now we've got it overlapping, and that's how you got around that. It's just by building another section underneath and then bringing that block, whatever that block, it could be an image, it could be a form, it could be text, whatever you want. So let's say this block right here, this form was an image, you would get the exact same effect by doing the exact same steps. So I hope that helps. So now we're going to go back to my website, and I want to show you some sections that I created on my website. Now, I actually got this idea from one of the themes because I couldn't figure out, I know I had seen it on other websites, and I couldn't figure out how they were accomplishing it. And so let me scroll down here. So these two sections right here, okay, how to accomplish this effect where you've got the entire section taken up. So you've got basically the image touching the far side on either side, right or left, and you've got the text box butted up against the images. Okay. I want to show you just kind of how we accomplish this. The first thing I want to show you is like right here on the right hand side, you can see that this text is obviously over too far. So if we click on this text box and we highlight it, here's the text over here on the left hand side. We're going to scroll down again to desktop layout. And I'm just kind of walking you through this to kind of get in your head, like these are the things, you know, to be thinking about. We want to change not the outside spacing because that's going to bump the whole block over. We just want to move the text a little bit. Well, one you could do is you could come up here and you could change the columns. It's at 5 columns. We could change it to 4. Okay. But see what it did? The columns shrink the whole block. So let's put it back to 5. And I'm going to show you just how to shrink the right-hand side. Just come in here to your inside spacing and let's add like 100 pixels. Okay. That looks good. So you see how it bumped over on the right-hand side, right? Now, let me show you the behind the scenes workings of how these two sections are working. So if we click on the section, let's start by going over here under the section setting. So here's the image, here's the text. We're gonna go to desktop layout so you can kind of get an idea of what's happening. So everything is centered. We've selected space between, and I've made the section full width. As you can see here, it's check marked so that we make sure that it's touching the sides, okay? So now let's check the images. Let's check the settings on the image, okay? If we come in here, we click on the image, we come down to desktop layout. And if you look at the image, this is how you're gonna wanna set this. You're gonna wanna set the image to flush. And then if you click on the text box and then come over here to desktop layout, you're not going to worry about making that flush because watch what happens if we make that flush. It's going to try to make it flush, but we've got spacing, you know, within the text block and everything like that. So if you want to change the background of this, by the way, you're not going to change the background on the text block. So if you click the text and we go to background, if you try to change this, watch what happens. It's only going to change the text block background. And as you can see, this is one of those examples I was giving you where the text is kind of touching the side of the box, and that's where you would use your padding to bump it over. But let's go back because I want to show you, if you want to change the background color then behind this text, you're going to want to change the whole section. So click here on the background of the section, go to your background, and then change your background color to whatever you want. Let's just change it to blue. There you go. Let's actually do yellow. There you go. So now you're able to, this is a great look, right? And that's exactly how we achieve the other. It's just the opposite. So all you do is you come out here, you duplicate your section, and then you just see the image and the text, you would just drag and swap them. See? So that one's pretty easy. Again, just make sure the image is flush, make sure the section is set to full width, and then just kind of manipulate your text box in there. And you get this by going, let's go back. This is from, let's add a section to my homepage, click it. And we're gonna go down, this is the one that says text and image right here. That's all it is. Here's what it looks like right out of the gate. It looks like this. Now, the last thing that I wanna show you is how to do some of this on mobile. You're not going to have, if you notice on the left-hand side where all the settings are, you've got mobile and desktop settings, but the mobile is very sparse right now. And you don't really need anything complicated for mobile, okay? So let me show you here on my homepage real quick. If we come up here to the top, you know that we can switch between different like iPad, like tablets, tablet horizontal, tablet vertical, and then of course we have a phone or a mobile, right? And as you can see, my website, text is aligned left, the buttons align left on my homepage. That's how I want it. But on mobile, maybe I want it centered, right? So what we do is we click on this section or we click on this text. Remember the call to action is part of the text right here. Okay. You don't have to do anything with that. All you got to do is come down here to mobile layout and then choose mobile text layout center. And there you go. So now the text is centered on here. Now, if you want to change, see how the word turn your knowledge up here is now butted up against my header. If you want more spacing there, it operates the same way as what we just showed you on desktop. So you come down here to your outside spacing because we want to bump the whole block down, not just the text inside the block. That's just going to expand the block size and mess other things up. So we just want to move the margin. So let's try adding like an extra 40 onto it. See how it came down? That actually doesn't look too bad. Let's switch it to 50. There we go. Okay, let's try another one real quick. Okay, here's another one. I have to do this anyway for my site, so this helps. It helps me get this done. So again, we're going to highlight this block. Come in here, go down to the mobile setting. Make sure you're on the mobile setting, okay? And you're going to click the mobile text alignment, and we're going to center it. And actually, that looks really good, so I'm okay with the spacing on that. And then the last example I want to show you is I want to go back to our original design and I want to show you how to hide those, you know, those custom blocks the custom code blocks that we put in there. I want to show you how to hide those on mobile. Okay. So let's click on customize and go back into our template here. Okay. Let's go down to our podcast section. Remember where we did the two section overlay, and let's turn back on the guides real quick so we can see what's happening. Okay, now that those guides are here, you can see where the block is right here. It's just it's a dummy block that keeps our image and the spacing, you know, at that 10 columns within that 12. If we click on mobile, as you can see here, the block is still here, taking up space between the section above it and the image and text section, right? So if we want to hide this, it's real simple. You just click on this blocks just like we did on the other things. We come over here to mobile layout on the left and see this option that says hide block. Click that, boom. But again, we hit it only on mobile. So it's still there on desktop, but on mobile, you can see that it cleaned it up. Okay, so that's how you do that. So there you go. There's a few of my favorite ninja tips to customize the page builder in Kajabi. So that way you can customize your website and your podcast page and your landing pages and all your sales funnels the way that you want to customize them and have a little bit more control over them. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, subscribe because I'm going to be doing a ton more videos like this. And of course, if you haven't got Kajabi yet, I want to offer you again that free 30-day trial period, along with the free Kajabi Kickstart course and ebook that will help you get to at least $1,000 a month in the first 30 days. Not to mention, you'll get that free 45-minute coaching call with me that we'll be able to talk about not only your online business, but we'll be able to get you up and running in Kajabi. We can talk strategy for online business and online marketing, creating passive income. So go to michaelgoms.com/Kajabi and sign up for the free 30-day trial and get all those amazing bonuses to help you get started in Kajabi. And like I said before, if you need help getting started in Kajabi or in your online business and getting started, this is what I do, helping aspiring entrepreneurs to launch their dream businesses, to sell what you know, your passions, your knowledge, your expertise, and make money passively online doing it, whether you're working a 9-to-5 right now or not. So go to michaelgoms.com/schedule and book a free 30-minute discovery call with me. And let's talk about your goals. Let's talk about your plans and what your passions are and how I can help guide you on how to get started, not only with Kajabi, but in your online business. I hope these tips have helped you today. And if they have, please comment below. Let me know what your favorite tip was. Maybe if you learned something new, let me know what that new thing is that you learned that I was able to help out with. I really love helping people. And everybody have a great day. We'll see you guys next time.